Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today, we're going to actually we have a guest with us, Damon Allen, who is with us, the Senior VP at the Federal Home Loan Bank. And the Federal Home Loan Bank, Damon, people have maybe heard about it, but probably don't know anything about the Federal Home Loan Bank and the important role that it plays in the community. But first of all, thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time to talk about this important organization in our community.
Well, my pleasure. So just to give your audience a little background on the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati. So we are one of 11 federal home loan banks. Each bank has a certain geographical region where they primarily do business. I say primarily because we don't exclusively do business within those districts, as we call them. But for us in Cincinnati, it's Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We were established in 1932 as a result of the Great Depression. And really, we are around, I always tell people, think of us as a banker's bank. So we lend money to banks, but now we also lend money to thrifts, insurance companies, credit unions, and community development financial institutions. They in turn take that money and they make mortgages. So we are who they borrow from to raise capital for mortgages. In addition to that, they also take deposits and other things.
So as banks utilize you as their bank, you actually give us an example of what a typical or more traditional relationship would be between a local bank that I would deposit my money into and how they would deal with you.
So it's really quite simple. So to be a member of to borrow from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati, you have to be a member. So almost any bank in the state of Kentucky, if not, I can probably safely say at least 99% of all banks in the state of Kentucky are members. They purchase capital stock from us, and then they pledge collateral to us, and then they can borrow. And literally, they just call us up, and they say, I want to borrow $1 million for 10 years, 30 years, or overnight. And within the day, we deposit the money in their demand deposit account, which is a checking account that they have with us. And then they take the money and they turn around and they make originate mortgages. So.
And now, is the Federal Home Loan Bank a federal agency, and do you get federal dollars, or where do your dollars come from that you load out?
Thank you for asking that question. So we were established by Congress in 1932, but we are not a instrumentality of the federal government. So we are called, all 11 banks, when I say we, I mean the system, are government-sponsored enterprises. So we are governed by the Federal Housing Finance Agency. They regulate us, but we don't get any federal appropriations. So the way we earn money, or raise money, if you will, is we issue debt. So we issue bonds. Outside of the Treasury, the Federal Home Loan Bank system is the largest issuer of debt in the United States. So we are not no federal tax dollars.
Great.
As a matter of fact, if I could quickly share real quick. So in 2008, when you had the financial crisis and you had Fannie and Freddie, they are also governed by the Federal Housing Finance Agency. However, the Federal Home Loan Banks, we require significant amount of collateral. We require our members to buy stock. And then also we have a joint and several liability. So what that means is if the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati were to fail, these other 10 federal home loan banks would have to step in and make all of our bondholders, all of our members whole. And even then, there's a whole other waterfall that would have to occur before the system could go bust, if you will.
I see. So what would happen if the Federal Home Loan Bank did not exist? What would that be as a negative to the community or to the country? Why should I care as a resident of Kenton County that if you even exist or not?
So there's really two reasons. So one, your mortgages will be more expensive. So because of the strength of the 11 federal home loan banks, we can go into the capital markets and we can achieve economies of scale when we issue debt. So we can afford to issue debt at very low rates, lower than the general market. Without us, if you're a small community bank, you have to issue debt on your own, and investors are going to charge you. In other words, you, the bank, would have to pay more interest on your bonds than otherwise without the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati. Now, if you're a really huge bank, you know, a $1 trillion bank, you can go to the capital markets and it's no problem. But the majority of financial institutions, or at least of banks, are community banks. The second really big thing, which really affects all of your constituency, is as part of our statutory mission, all 11 banks must set aside 10% of their net earnings to fund the development of affordable housing. So if you think about that, since 1990, when this statute first, or regulation first went into place, combined, the 11 federal home loan banks have provided a little over $6 billion with a B dollars towards affordable housing throughout the country. And we are the largest corporate funder of Habitat for Humanity. So we do all sorts of developments. You know, we do scholar houses, we do recovery centers, all sorts of things throughout the Commonwealth.
So basically making it cheap enough money that allows these entities to function and become able to be cash flowing to be able to provide affordable housing for those who need that first level, whether it be home ownership or rental or assistance while they're getting education, et cetera.
That's right, yeah. And our two flagship programs are our Affordable Housing Program and our Welcome Home Program. Affordable housing provides grants up to $1 million for development of affordable housing. It's mostly used for rental housing, so multifamily units. But then we also have our Welcome Home Program, which does direct down payment assistance to home buyers. So they close on a home. At closing, they get up to $5,000, $7,500 if they're a veteran, from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati.
And all those relationships are acknowledged and aware of through if I go to my local bank, I can connect to those resources. So are there resources you also provide to small businesses, and especially in this COVID world we're dealing with? And obviously we're still working from home.
Yes.
And that is, you know, what kind of changes has that presented to you all, and what kind of options are available to a business owner today?
So the Federal Home Loan Bank, so we have roughly 600 member financial institutions. Most of them are small community banks. So once the pandemic hit back in March, we rolled out a new program that started on May 1st, where we provide 6 month, zero interest loans to our members. And they take the proceeds of those loans and they have to use them to support small businesses that have been adversely impacted by the pandemic. So a small business can take these loan funds and use them to make payroll, use them to pay their utilities, their rent, what have you.
So a typical banker would know about this availability today, and that gives me essentially zero cost money to, and then typically maybe better terms that I could pay that back over a longer period of time. But to get through this period of the pandemic.
Right. And we have some other programs that are discounted loans also that we offer. And we've made some adjustments to those in response to the pandemic. And those provide a discount as well. It doesn't take it all the way down to zero, but it does give our members a big discount that they can use to help small businesses as well.
That's great. Well, you know, the Federal Home Loan Bank, and you pointed this out, that maybe you wouldn't be needed as much by some of these larger banks, and as you as a Kenton County resident, I know in my case, I love to deal with community banks because you maybe sometimes get a little bit closer feel for what's going on in your community. And that relationship is very strong between you and those community banks. What do you see in the future for that relationship? Do you see it being needed? You know, banks are purchased and consolidated. Do you see that relationship staying needed in the community between a bank and the Federal Home Loan Bank, or does that change in some way moving forward?
So I see it being a long-term relationship. We've been around since 1932. We were started, as I mentioned, in the Great Depression. The issue of consolidation is an important one because we are starting to see a lot of bank mergers. It's slowed down a bit probably in the last few months to a year, just as the economy's changed, and then you have the pandemic, et cetera. But there's always going to be a need for community banks. There always has been. Community banks can service businesses and households that your larger banks may not be able to service or service as competitively with the products and the kind of the personal touch that you get. So I see us being around. We have expanded our membership since I've been at the Federal Home Loan Bank. So most recently, we've taken on community development financial institutions. So they're nowhere near the book of business as the banks, but it's still an important membership for us. And we added insurance companies, et cetera. So,
Fantastic.
and again, the real benefit is the fact we can go in the capital markets and raise so much money en masse so cheaply and provide it to the banks.
Well, it's interesting to see that, the Federal Home Loan Bank, this operation behind the scenes, so to speak, to support both traditional mortgages, business loans, and then, of course, the affordable housing side of things. I don't think many people really are aware of that. I appreciate all the work you do and your team there. Hopefully, as we get through this pandemic, you can go back to a little bit more normal lifestyle as well. But I sure do appreciate you taking the time with me today. Are there any other thoughts you have that you think that the community would like to know or should know about Federal Home Loan Bank?
So I would just say, again, we're a banker's bank, but reach out to your local bank, thrift, insurance company, anyone you have a financial relationship with. If you have a need for funding for a small business or need to purchase a home, what have you, keep in mind that our programs are available and we're always willing to come to the table with whomever and be a facilitator.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for everything, Damon, and thanks for taking some of your time today.
All righty. Thank you.